All right, as promised, I'm going to give a little demo of a proof of concept or a way to limit roles that are created by a user to um, just the permissions that that specific user has. So broadcasting here from Casanova, New York, a little chillier than North Carolina. So bear with me if I stutter and shiver. Hold on. Let me find my window here. All right. So Foreman and Katello, role permission inheritance by myself at Thomas McKay. So the goal is users may not create roles that exceed their own permissions, which makes sense. Okay. So the administrator, admin, creates role. The admin user is the one that's created during the initial installation of Foreman or Katello, and they have universal permissions. They can do and access anything throughout the tool. In my case, the admin is going to create a role and this is a totally contrived example. It's going to be centered around provisioning templates, and so the admin user is going to create a role that limits the manipulation of provisioning templates to names approximately equal to Katello. And then they're going to assign this role to user 1. So if we go over here to the roles, and this is my roles UI plugin, just a little easier to look at. Okay, so this is the role created by the user admin. And you can see organizations, locations, and you can see the resource types are role, location, config templates. Config templates are provisioning templates. This is just a byproduct of the model naming inside the code. Okay, so let me click on this guy. Okay, so the permissions associated with this role are the ones we're interested in are first role and filter. So this with this role assigned to a user, that user can create, view, create, edit, and destroy both roles and filters. Now filters are the components of a role that actually make up the restrictions for that role. Okay, so with this user, a user with this role can create roles and filters. Okay, and then here we have the config template. So the config template permission only allows them to view config templates or provisioning templates with names approximately equal to Katello. Okay. Now I'm logged in as admin here, but earlier I logged in as user number 1. Okay, so you can see that user 1 has this role. Okay. And so these are the provision templates that user 1 can see. For reference, again, as admin, these are all the provisioning templates that are available here. Okay, so you see there are 3 that start with Katello. That's going to match the Katello squiggle, name squiggle Katello, and then there's some other ones here. Okay, so user 1, his role is working appropriately. Okay. All right. So now, user 1 being given that permission, they may create their own roles and filters. So you can think of them as an org admin or an org manager. So this user, logged in as user 1, they create a role for provisioning templates, but they do not put any restrictions on it. So in other words, they do not put the name squiggle Katello. Now this is important because in the current system, if I gave permissions to a user to be able to create roles, they would be able to create any role they wanted. So they could create a role that exceeded their own permissions. Okay, so let's go look at the role that user 1 created. Okay, so user 1 created a role. This is what they added to the role. They added for the resource types config templates, no search, permissions the view. So in the current tool, a user with this role created by this user would see everything. Okay, now here's the difference that I've added. So when a user creates a role, their own filters that match that resource type are attached to the filters they themselves are creating. And that's what we see here. So this is the line. This filter is what user 1 created themselves, but they inherited, this filter inherited from user 1 all the filters that are for resource type config template. So you see I just put a little symbol here, and again this is just this is my roles plugin. It's not checked in code on either side. So, but I put a little symbol here for a lock, which is implying that it's an inherited restriction. Okay, so the result is basically that this user, even though they created it without a search, in fact there is an implied search with name Katello. So the results of this filter are ANDed with this filter. The results are, of course, the same. So user 1 and user 2 would now see the same results. And you can see that user 1 assigned this to user 2, and this is indeed what user 2 sees. Okay, so user 1, this is what they see. User 1 didn't have to specify anything additionally. User 2 sees the same thing. Okay, so user 2, although their role is created without any restrictions, they still can only, they're absolutely limited to the same level, the same scope as the creator. So code changes, very minimal. Again, I'm not overly familiar with the roles and permissions code itself, and Merrick helped me a lot on email and IRC, sort of guiding me down this path. There are some open questions about whether this is the right idea, and I'd love to hear some feedback about if this sort of concept is necessary. And that's it. Thanks for watching.